It's 6 p.m. on a Monday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che, here to provide you with the latest. Let's begin with the headlines. President Park Geun-hye orders her senior secretaries to switch on a customized government-wide crisis management system to better cope with the ongoing uncertainties and volatility stemming from Brexit. Over in Tianjin, where the World Economic Forum is having its summer meeting, present-day uncertainties stemming from Brexit dominated talks and drew attention away from discussions about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The leaders of China and Russia issue a joint statement on North Korea. They highlight the need to revive the six-party denuclearization talks and are united against a THAAD missile defense battery in Korea. The world is still feeling the impact of Britain's decision to leave the EU. In South Korea, President Park Geun-hye called on her top aides to do all they can to stabilize the markets. Song Ji-sun starts us off from the nation's top office.
At a regular meeting with her senior secretaries on Monday, President Park Geun-hye called on top officials to put in motion a government-wide crisis management system to deal with the uncertainties and volatility stemming from the Brexit crisis.
시장 상황에 대한 24시간 모니터링과 함께 시장 안정화를 위해 필요한 모든 조치를 시행해서 우리 경제에 미치는 파급이 최소화될 수 있도록 해 주기를 바랍니다.
President Park stressed that the Korean economy has the financial stability and resilience to absorb the impact of Britain leaving the EU and said that Seoul must join efforts to stabilize global financial markets through cooperation with the international community. On top of the instabilities triggered by the Brexit factor, President Park said South Korea is also facing security threats, citing North Korea's ballistic missile tests last week. The president said the nation must unite to counter those challenges, and that Seoul must continue to push through with its corporate restructuring efforts to revive the economy and to ensure it can take another leap forward.
이제 더 머뭇거리고 물러날 곳은 없습니다. 여기서 우리가 잘 결정하지 못하고 머뭇거린다면 우리 경제는 큰 어려움을 맞게 될 것입니다.
President Park will chair the National Economic Advisory Council meeting on Tuesday to discuss economic policies for the second half of this year. Seoul will look to devise effective and prompt countermeasures to counter economic challenges on the domestic and global front and create more jobs despite those obstacles. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Let's switch over to how Brexit is shaking things up in the stock market. Korean shares bounced right back on Monday. Still, in light of the potential for market volatility, the nation's top policymakers vowed to closely monitor the situation and take action if necessary. Kim Min-ji has the numbers and more.
Korean shares closed almost flat on Monday on hopes the major economies would pump liquidity into the markets to cushion the fallout from Britain's decision to depart the European Union. The benchmark Kospi closed 0.08% higher after falling to a low of just over 1,900 at one point in trading. The tech-heavy Kosdaq also recovered its earlier losses after opening down 2.8%. The local currency, meanwhile, continued to weaken against the greenback, falling 2.41 from Friday's close. In light of the uncertainty stemming from Brexit, Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol said the central bank will maintain a high level of market liquidity to ensure stability. Speaking at an emergency meeting with senior officials, Lee vowed to take all the necessary steps to minimize the negative impact on the local financial market and the economy. The top central banker also noted, however, that price fluctuations in the local market and other Asian countries of East, and stressed there is no need to react too sensitively to short-term changes. The head of the nation's top financial regulator had a similar response, vowing to do everything possible to counter the fallout at a separate meeting with local financial authorities earlier in the day. Financial Services Commission's chairman Im Jong-young warned the volatility will continue for some time until the markets rebalance, as a number of variables are still at play. Im said, however, the situation is highly unlikely to develop into a full-blown global financial crisis like the one back in 2008. He added that the government will keep a close eye on capital flows and is ready to take action if market volatility exceeds certain levels. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Korea's political parties are also reacting to the fallout of Brexit, with each voicing their concerns and proposing countermeasures. Park Ji-won zooms in on the rumble at the National Assembly.
After spending a turbulent weekend following Brexit, Korea's political parties are all voiced their own suggestions or measures regarding the UK. The ruling Saenuri Party stressed that it is closely cooperating with the government on the matter, urging its policy council to follow the situation.
Saenuri Party and the government decided to respond to any Brexit fallout for 24 hours and are closely monitoring the situation in both the international and Korean economies.
The main opposition Minju Party of Korea urged the government to scrutinize the causes and impacts of Brexit on the global economy. The Liberal Party mentioned that Brexit might have been caused partly by the current worsening polarization among income groups around the world, thus adding the government has to readjust its economic restructuring efforts.
Korea's shipbuilding sector is undergoing a restructuring process, expecting to get a boost when global oil prices stabilize. However, as Brexit could cause oil prices to destabilize, we need to readjust the restructuring process accordingly.
The minor opposition People's Party, meanwhile, stressed that any government measure to counter a Brexit fallout needs to be based on the public's needs and demands.
The People's Party has warned about the possibility of Brexit, and when that became a reality, the party formed a task force team to come up with ideal measures to be conveyed to the finance ministry. The government needs to solve any issue related to Brexit, focusing on the public's needs.
The minor opposition party's co-leader also warned that Brexit could spur tendencies of isolation and nationalism among major countries around the world, adding that such tendencies could incur problems for open economies like Korea, which relies heavily on international trade. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Over in China, the World Economic Forum's annual meeting of new champions is on, with big names including Korean Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-won and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang in attendance. Brexit dominated the talks, upstaging the original theme of the conference. Kwon Jang-ho gives us the updates from Tianjin.
The World Economic Forum's founder, Klaus Schwab, opened the annual meeting of new champions, also known as the Summer Davos, with a few words of welcome for Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. The forum's main theme this year is the Fourth Industrial Revolution and how technological advances are changing the world faster than ever before. And Premier Li discussed what China plans to do to keep up with their new drivers in order to aid innovation and development.
We need to seize the opportunity provided by the new round of industrial revolution and scientific and technological revolution to give boost to the growth of new economy.
But this year's event has been overwhelmed by one subject, Brexit.
Its impact is already demonstrating on the international financial market, and it is adding new uncertainties to the world economy.
Throughout the past 2 days, speakers have been asked about the effects of UK's decision to leave the EU and how it will affect their fields in the future. A last-minute session was added to the event's schedule on Sunday for discussions on implications of the decision.
You're talking about the diminishment of the most important alliance in the post-war order, but you're also talking, I think, reasonably likely about the eventual disintegration in further part of the UK itself.
And in the short term, these shocks or speculations will not be quieting, but over the long term, if parts of Europe can be refigured and understood, there can be a gradual return to normal.
The main theme for the World Economic Forum this year has been the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the future. But for most participants here, it seems that last week's events have made it difficult to get past the uncertainties shaking up the present. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News, Tianjin.
Amid the heightened uncertainties on the European continent, the leaders of France and Germany have confirmed their full agreement to be united in dealing with the UK's decision to leave the EU. According to sources, French President François Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel agreed to work together to avoid any potential uncertainties resulting from Brexit, while stressing the need for European initiatives and quick action on concrete priorities. They had a 30-minute-long phone on Sunday to discuss the matter. The two leaders are scheduled to meet with Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi and European Council President Donald Tusk on Monday. The leaders of China and Russia expressed their strong opposition to North Korea's nuclear and missile program at a summit between the two countries. They also saw eye to eye on the resumption of the six-party talks. For details, let's turn to our Kwon So-ah.
Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin issued a joint statement after their bilateral meeting in Beijing on Saturday that was released by China's foreign ministry on Monday. The two agreed to continue to seek the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula while refusing to accept North Korea's nuclear and missile strategy. While the statement expressed the hope that North Korea will prosper and become an active and constructive participant in the global arena, including the peaceful use of nuclear energy, President Xi and Putin showed their strong commitment to leading their traditional ally to abide by the rules of the international community. The two leaders also underscored the importance of strict implementation of the UN Security Council's sanctions on the regime. Beijing and Moscow also agreed that the long-stalled six-party talks should be resumed to achieve the goal of denuclearizing North Korea. Beijing and Moscow also reiterated their opposition to the installation of missile defense systems in Europe and Asia, including the European Aegis Ashore system and the possible deployment of the U.S. missile defense system THAAD to South Korea, saying it will have a negative effect on the global and regional strategic balance, as well as on regional stability and security. China and Russia worry about the system's regional surveillance capabilities, while South Korea and the U.S. say the systems will be used solely to defend against North Korea's threats. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Back here in the nation, 26 Korean owners of gasoline-powered vehicles made by Volkswagen are suing the German automaker and its local unit for emissions manipulation. Parun Law, which represents the plaintiffs, has filed a class action lawsuit against Volkswagen, Audi Volkswagen Korea, and Korean car dealers. The action comes after prosecutors in Seoul found the 7th-generation Golf 1.4 TSI were equipped with defeat devices in November 2014. Regarding the exact amount of compensation, Parun Law says it will wait until the U.S. District Court in San Francisco decide on the compensation amount for American customers. Those results are expected to be out on Tuesday. Korea is joining the global push to implement clean air policies to curb air pollution. Shin Se-min fills us in on how the nation's efforts to keep up with the green policies set in cities around the world is kicking in.
Cities around the world are implementing a range of measures to reduce auto emissions. The London mayor has called air pollution the world's biggest environmental challenge and is pushing to implement an ultra-low emissions zone that would require drivers of the oldest and dirtiest vehicles to pay a fine. A standard for heavy vehicles will be fully implemented London-wide starting in 2020. In France, under a new law aimed at curbing smog, cars registered before 1997 will be barred from entering Paris starting July 1st. Over in India, reports that pollution levels in Delhi aligned with those of Beijing prompted the Indian city to ban all new large diesel cars and SUVs with engines of more than 2,000 cc's and to phase out diesel taxi cabs. Korea is joining the clean air revolution, though it's been slower to make changes. It currently ranks 173rd out of 180 countries in terms of air quality, but the government is hoping to change that. The government once encouraged diesel car ownership by giving diesel car owners a tax break starting in 2009. The policy worked, though maybe too well, and Korea's Automobile Manufacturers Association says last year nearly 45% of all registered vehicles ran on diesel, or 4 times the number in 2008. But the government is now taking a different approach. It plans to strengthen restrictions on aging diesel cars while promoting electric vehicles, with the goal of having them represent 30% of all auto sales by 2020. Experts say such efforts are a must.
Also, there is a necessary for the government and other civil society organizations to tell the general public that actually diesel vehicle is very harmful for in some aspect, right? So that's where we need to place the effective regulatory measures by the government.
Experts are optimistic that cities in Korea will be able to go all electric by 2030 by following the example set by Jeju Island. 신세민, 아리랑 뉴스.
The new Panama Canal is finally open for business. The renovation of the 102-year-old expanded version will allow larger ships to travel between the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. Hwang Woo-jun introduces us to the project that was supposed to be completed back in 2014 and explains how Korea could benefit from it.
To some, it's one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. The revamped Panama Canal reopened on Sunday, following its first renovation since it was first constructed in 1914.
The Panama Canal 102 years ago connected 2 oceans. Today it connects the present and the future.
The completion of the $5.2 billion project that started in 2007 was marked by a Chinese ship carrying about 9,000 containers voyaging through. Thanks to the expansion, the canal's capacity has doubled, allowing a new generation of container ships that are about 130% larger in size to pass through. Capacity-wise, the new set of locks will also allow ships that carry up to 14,000 containers, an increase from 4,400 containers. Korea will also benefit from the updated canal. Travel time for large shipping vessels from New York to Busan took about 45 days when using the Suez Canal. But as the new Panama Canal allows larger ships to pass through, the traveling time is expected to decrease to 35 days, potentially giving a much-needed boost to Korea's struggling shipping industry. Hwang Woo-jun, Arirang News.
We've come to the end of this hour's newscast. And as always, thank you for watching.